Imagine stepping back in time, billions of years ago, before dinosaurs ever roamed the Earth. Picture a world that's completely alien to us today. Oceans filled with bizarre, almost otherworldly creatures. These were the creatures that ruled the planet's oceans, skies, and land, long before dinosaurs became the giants we know them as today. We often think of dinosaurs as the ultimate prehistoric rulers, but they weren't the first to hold that title. Before the dinosaurs, Earth was ruled by creatures that laid the groundwork for everything that followed. These beings shape the world we live in, but their stories are often forgotten or overshadowed by the dinosaurs' legacy. Today, we're going to explore the lives of these incredible creatures. From the first single-celled organisms to the giant sea scorpions and the monstrous amphibians, we'll uncover the rulers of Earth before the age of dinosaurs. This isn't just about dinosaurs. It's about the creatures who came first and made everything we know possible. Let's start our journey in the Precambrian era, around 4.6 billion years ago. Picture a young Earth still cooling, its oceans just beginning to form. In this chaotic world, life didn't begin with large creatures, but with single-celled organisms, tiny, microscopic life forms that somehow survived in this harsh, early environment. These little microbes were the pioneers. They laid the foundation for all life on Earth. And though they may seem simple or insignificant, their existence was groundbreaking. They didn't just survive. They began to transform the planet's atmosphere and prepare the Earth for more complex life forms. When I think of these early microbes, it reminds me of how small actions can spark massive change. We often overlook the little things, but these tiny organisms shape the course of life on Earth in ways we're only beginning to understand. Sometimes, the most significant changes come from the most unexpected places. Imagine being one of these first microbes, living in an ocean full of volcanic activity and shifting chemicals. Everything around you is unstable, but somehow you manage to survive. And over time, you begin to change the very environment you live in, slowly turning it from a hostile place into one that's more conducive to life. Fast forward to around 635 million years ago, during the Ediacaran period. This was when life took another giant leap forward, the first multicellular organisms. These early creatures were very simple, soft-bodied, with no hard bones or shells, but they were a huge step up from the single-celled organisms that came before them. The creatures of the Ediacaran period may have looked strange. Some had body shapes that were completely different from anything we see today, but they were essential to the evolution of life on Earth. They were the building blocks for everything that would come after. What I find fascinating about the Ediacaran period is that it shows how life doesn't always jump to the complex immediately. Sometimes it starts with small, simple steps, almost like practice runs for something bigger. And in life, we all go through phases of simplicity before we grow into something more complex. Imagine a soft-bodied organism floating in the ancient oceans. It's simple and unremarkable, but it's also part of something much greater. It's a stepping stone, evolving into more complex life forms. It doesn't have a hard shell or bones to protect it, yet its survival opens the door to the next phase of life. Now, let's jump to around 541 million years ago, the Cambrian period. This is when life really started to explode, in what's known as the Cambrian explosion. In just a few million years, Earth saw an incredible burst of evolutionary change. The oceans became filled with strange and unfamiliar creatures. Creatures that looked almost alien by today's standards. The seas were teeming with invertebrates, animals without backbones, like trilobites which scuttled along the ocean floor. But there was one creature that really stood out, the apex predator of the Cambrian seas, Anomalocaris. This massive shrimp-like creature had spiny appendages for grabbing prey and a mouthful of teeth for crushing it. The Cambrian explosion is a perfect example of how sometimes life just takes off. It's like a moment of pure creativity where everything suddenly starts to evolve at an astonishing rate. It makes me think about those times in life when everything starts coming together in a whirlwind. Opportunities, ideas, and growth happening all at once. Picture yourself swimming in the Cambrian seas, surrounded by strange creatures. Suddenly, from the depths, a huge Anomalocaris appears. With its powerful jaws and sharp vision, it's the ultimate predator. But as terrifying as it is, it's also part of this incredible moment in Earth's history, when evolution seemed to explode overnight. By the Ordovician period, life had diversified even more, with giant cephalopods, ancient relatives of squids and octopuses, becoming the dominant predators in the seas. Creatures like Ceres, a massive squid-like predator, grew up to 30 feet long, using its tentacles to capture prey. Meanwhile, the first jawless fish began to appear. While they weren't the biggest creatures in the ocean, they represented a critical step in the evolution of vertebrates. Then, in the Silurian period, something extraordinary happened. Life began to move onto land. The first simple plants, like mosses, started to spread across the land, and arthropods, like millipedes and scorpions, ventured out of the water to explore this new environment. The transition from sea to land makes me think about how we often have to step out of our comfort zones to grow. It's not easy, and the unknown can be daunting, but it's through these risks that we find new opportunities. The creatures of the Silurian period took that risk, and it paid off. Imagine being one of these early arthropods, crawling out of the warm, familiar seas onto dry land. It's uncertain, a little scary, but full of potential. And every step you take on this new terrain is a step toward a world completely different from the one you knew. The Devonian period, known as the Age of Fish, saw the rise of incredible marine creatures. Giant fish like Dunolotius, which could grow up to 33 feet long, ruled the seas. These fish were predators with powerful jaws, capable of crushing bones and tearing through tough flesh. On land, the first amphibians emerged, marking the beginning of the transition from water to land for vertebrates. The Devonian was a time of great change, with the first forests and the first creatures taking their first steps on land. The Devonian period reminds me of the times when we make our first big steps toward a new chapter in life. It's exciting, but also filled with challenges. These first amphibians weren't perfect, just like us when we try something new, but they were brave enough to take that leap. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a Devonian riverbank, watching the first amphibians crawl onto land. Their movements are awkward at first, but you know that in time, these creatures will adapt and thrive in this new world. It's a little messy, but progress is never smooth. The Carboniferous period was a time of enormous creatures, particularly insects. With oxygen levels higher than today, insects grew to unimaginable sizes. Dragonflies, with wingspans of over 2 feet long, flew among the towering trees, while massive amphibians, ruled the swampy waters. On land, the first reptiles appeared, signaling the start of a new chapter in Earth's history. The Carboniferous was a time of abundance, but also a time when evolution was pushing life to its extremes. The Carboniferous reminds me of how some environments just push life to its limits. It's a reminder that the more supportive and abundant our surroundings are, the more we can grow and thrive. But also, like these creatures, we can become giants when we make the most of our resources. Picture a giant dragonfly, its wings buzzing as it hunts through the thick trees. On the ground, a massive amphibian lumbers through the swamp. It's a wild, almost alien world, but it's one that these creatures have mastered. By the end of the Permian period, Earth experienced the Great Dying, a mass extinction event that wiped out much of life on the planet. It was a devastating moment, but it set the stage for a new beginning. From the ashes of this catastrophe, life began to recover, and early reptiles and dinosaurs started to rise. The story of life on Earth is one of constant change, from the first microbes to the first amphibians, from the giants of the Carboniferous to the rise of the dinosaurs. Life, as has always been evolving. These creatures before the dinosaurs laid the groundwork for everything that came afterward. Just like the creatures that came before the dinosaurs, we too are part of an ever-changing world. The rise and fall of life throughout history show us that change is inevitable, but it's how we adapt and evolve that shapes our future. Life may not always be predictable, but it's always full of potential for growth and rebirth. Now, let's take a moment to reflect on the incredible journey we've been on. From the first flicker of life in the oceans of the Precambrian era to the giant predators of the Cambrian seas and the rise of amphibians and reptiles in the Carboniferous period. Earth's history is not just a tale of survival, but of constant change. The creatures we've learned about today may be long gone, but their legacy still lingers. One of the most remarkable aspects of Earth's history is how it's been shaped by the forces of life and death. The Great Dying, which occurred at the end of the Permian period, was one of the most catastrophic events in Earth's history. Over 90% of marine species and 70% of land species disappeared. The planet became unrecognizable, desolate with few signs of life. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite this unimaginable devastation, life always finds a way to bounce back. The survivors of the Permian extinction went on to create entirely new ecosystems. In fact, it was this very catastrophe that gave rise to the earliest dinosaurs and the age of reptiles. Life, once again, adapted, evolved, and flourished. It's easy to look at extinction events and think that they're the end of the story. After all, how can something so devastating ever lead to a brighter future? But the story of Earth has always been about cycles. It's a reminder that even in our darkest moments, there is potential for rebirth and transformation. Sometimes we face challenges in life that feel insurmountable. Whether it's personal loss, a setback in our careers, or just the weight of life's obstacles, we can sometimes feel as though we are living through our own personal extinction event. But if history teaches us anything, it's that life has an extraordinary ability to adapt and recover. Just like the planet itself, we too have the power to emerge from difficult times stronger than before. It's tempting to view change as a bad thing, especially when it's accompanied by hardship. But change can also be an opportunity for growth. Think of the creatures that survived the Great Dying. They were the ones who adapted, who found a way to continue. In many ways, their story mirrors our own lives. It's not about avoiding change or hardship. It's about learning how to navigate it. Think about the survivors of the Permian extinction. Creatures like the early reptiles and synapsids. They weren't the biggest or the most powerful animals on Earth, but they were adaptable. They could withstand the harsh new world and thrive where others couldn't. These creatures became the ancestors of the dinosaurs and, eventually, all of us. Without them, we wouldn't be here today. This idea of resilience and rebirth is something we can all connect with. In my own life, I've faced moments where it felt like everything was falling apart. Maybe you've been there too, those moments when it seems like nothing will ever be the same. But just as the Earth healed after its own great dying, we too have the capacity to heal, rebuild, and grow. It's not just the story of ancient creatures. It's a story about us, too. We all go through times of difficulty and loss, but it's in those moments that we have the chance to rebuild ourselves, to transform into something stronger and more capable. Just as life on Earth found a way to bounce back from catastrophe, we have that same potential within us. Think of all the species that came before the dinosaurs, these ancient creatures that dominated their ecosystems. They were the giants of their time, but they didn't last forever. Even the mightiest of creatures had their time, and then they were replaced. This doesn't mean that their existence was meaningless. Quite the opposite. Every one of these creatures played a crucial role in shaping the world. Every one of them was part of the grand tapestry of life on Earth. This, to me, is one of the most important lessons we can take from Earth's history, that nothing in life lasts forever, but that doesn't diminish its significance. The creatures that came before the dinosaurs were part of a much bigger story, and though they are no longer here, their impact on the planet is still felt. Let me take you back to the Carboniferous period, where giant insects and amphibians ruled the skies and swamps. These creatures were massive, some of the biggest the world had ever seen. But their reign was short-lived. The landscape changed, the environment shifted, and eventually they were replaced by new creatures better suited for the changing world. Imagine the massive dragonflies, their wings buzzing as they hunted. Their size was awe-inspiring, but even they couldn't stop the forces of change. Over time, they were replaced by smaller, more agile creatures. Yet, their story is no less significant. Without their reign, the world would have been a different place, and in a way, their legacy lives on in the creatures that followed them. This story of rise and fall, of creatures that ruled and then vanished, is not just an ancient tale. It's a reflection of life itself. In our own lives, we face moments of challenge, loss, and transition. And while these moments may feel like the end, they're often the very moments that set the stage for something new. Life is full of cycles. The ancient creatures we've discussed may be gone, but they were part of the evolutionary journey that led to the world we know today. Their story is a reminder that life is always evolving, and it's through change and adaptation that we grow. Every challenge we face is an opportunity for transformation, just as every extinction event paved the way for the creatures that came after. When I reflect on these ancient creatures, I realize that their story isn't so different from our own. We all face moments of fear, hardship, and loss. But it's how we respond to those moments that defines us. The creatures that survived the Great Dying didn't give up. They adapted, They found new ways to thrive, and in the end, they became the ancestors of everything that followed. Just like them, we too have the power to transform, to evolve, to create a future that's even better than what came before. And that's the true lesson of Earth's history. That change, though often difficult, is what drives progress. It's what pushes life forward. So as we look at the incredible story of life on Earth, from the first microbes to the age of dinosaurs, remember this: we are all part of this grand, ever-changing story. Like the creatures of the past, we too have the power to adapt, to overcome, and to build something beautiful out of even the toughest challenges. The creatures that ruled before the dinosaurs may be gone, but their legacy lives on in us. And just as they shaped the Earth's future, so too do we shape the future of our own world. The question is, how will we adapt to the challenges ahead? How will we leave our mark on this planet? Because just like those ancient creatures, our time will come to an end. But in the time we have, we can make a difference. And that, my friends, is a legacy worth creating.